here. Hi.
I'm prepared. I'm here.
Okay,
Yes, I knew it.
welcome to the show,
Good call.
Steve. Really appreciate the 50 subs. Is a great way to just bust down the door to get on.
Yeah, I know.
It's a good way to get a positive intro.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for having me on, Travis. You know, I've been supporting the show. I think last off season, right?
Yeah, last off season we had you on. It was great. You leaked some stuff. It was fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
Well-
I'm really happy to be here. It's been a great day so far.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you and Jack and ESPN for all doing this right before the start of my show. That was very convenient. I have a big announcement tonight. Now, you know, my upcoming partner, who will soon to be announced, it gets to see these big numbers, and it's all because you guys colluded to help me out. So thank you. What? So I guess normally people come on and they've got a take. We've got takes for you. So, do you want to explain sort of how this came about and why Jensen?
Yeah. So I think it was started with me dreaming of going to Worlds, right? Like last season, and when I was building the team, and we were 10th place in 2017, and I was like, okay, let's actually build a team that can qualify for Worlds, and so I started to put the pieces together for that. And I think once we got to Worlds, it was like, we're here. Holy shit, we could actually like get out of groups and do really well, and then we fell short, and I kind of got a taste for what it might be like to win a world championship. And I think there was like this looming mentality that like players from the East were somehow like superior to what could be accomplished in the West. And then Cloud9 kind of made their run, and Fnatic made it to the finals. And it was like, okay, we could actually do this. Like I could build a team that could win a world championship. Like I'm going to go for it. And that's where it kind of started. And then when I had the opportunity to sign Jensen, I thought, well, this guy brings experience, like carry potential. Like we ran some in-game statistics over the last 3.5 years for both, Pobelter and Jensen, and a number of other players, and his stats on like how effective he is with the gold that he earns in a game is actually right up there with like Caps and Rookie, which is, I think, a pretty important stat. And he had like the motivation and experience and drive, and so like it just made sense. And once I kind of figured stuff out with Jack, it was it just became a possibility, you know. And then I spoke with Jensen, and he made a few promises to me, which I won't share exactly what they are. But
World Championship Trophy 2019.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's just like, I'm summarizing, but he's like, you know, I'm gonna fucking do this, you know, like I'm gonna give it 100%, and that's inspiring, right? Like that's what we're doing this all for. And he also said, like, dude, I haven't won an LCS North American Championship, like always have fallen short. And I just told him, I said, we're gonna win one this year. Like that's
only one or two.
Two. We're gonna start with one.
It's like we've got at least one of these. It's a 50-50, but
yeah. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Yeah. Well, Azale or Mark, feel free to jump in with questions. I know we've got several, but it doesn't need to turn into a Travis interview.
I mean, go ahead, Mark.
No, you go for it.
I'm just really curious, you know, what the thought process is as far as like, so you talked about, you know, Caps, you talked about Rookie, you talked about some of these other guys. You know, how many mid laners did you really look at? Was it just a situation of, hey, Jensen's available, Jensen's really good, let's bring him in? And, you know, you talk about kind of the goal of winning Worlds. So looking at it through that lens, were you really looking at, you know, a ton of different mid laners from around the world to consider for this position? And also really curious, were you taking into consideration the fact that, you know, he is going to become no longer an import, right, in summer? So that opening up possibilities also.
Yeah, so I'll answer the second part first. So the, you know, plan of establishing a team that some of the players turn to NA residents is a big factor, right? Like that was part of the offseason plans for 2018 and signing a 3-year contract with Impact, who just got his green card approved, and he also just hit the timing for becoming a North American resident, which gives us the ability of having both an import mid and support. And to also have Jensen next year gives us a lot of flexibility, right? And those options kind of increase our probability that we can have more decisions, between each offseason. So it's absolutely a consideration. In terms of, how we approach each offseason, we're actually pretty analytical about it. We have this master spreadsheet that imports all the data from every player and every secret account that we know from solo queue, and we have it compiled into certain statistics that I like looking at, and we map out of that list who our priorities or kind of our short list is going to be. And I have each of the staff members do that, and then we kind of like meet after we come up with our own conclusions and figure out what is going to be the best roster. And so, yeah, there's plenty of names at the start of that process, and then it kind of gets narrowed down, and we talk about what's important and what's going to gel with the team. For me, a big piece of it was just having additional like carry potential within the team, like doing more with a gold lead, because like Impact, he's fantastic at like soaking up pressure, right? Like how many times have you seen Impact like get 3-man dove and he turns it around, or like, and to just have that kind of style from Jensen, I think adds a lot to the team. So that was a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Travis, are we doing calls with Steve?
I don't think we do calls with Steve. I think maybe later on in the off season we'll pull him on for a more dedicated episode. But I think we can just keep talking to him for another 10 or so minutes.
Cool. I pulled some people, but they had similar points that I wanted to ask anyways. What do you think about overall like play style concerns that I know some people have expressed about, just like if Jensen can play with a big personality in Doublelift who feels like he wants a lot of the in-game resources and stuff, like was these things that you were heavily considering, or was it like Jensen's skill and these numbers and these analytics are so overwhelming that like we're going with him and we'll figure it out from there?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be like an inherent problem with like Doublelift and Jensen competing for resources on the map. Like part of our problem in the past year has been, again, the meme, right? Like it's the Doublelift show. Like if Doublelift gets a lead, like TL wins. If Doublelift doesn't get a lead, like TL may lose, or it's just a tough game. And so there's enough resources on the map to go to carry players, right? Like that's possible. Like the mid lane's the center of the map. You get a gold lead, you're effective in team fights, you dish out a lot of damage. That's just there's enough to go around, I think, to answer that question. Like he's proven that he's consistent and can perform well and compete against some of the best mid laners in the world and go to toe to toe and even do better. So, yeah.
My next question is Reggie's in the chat. He says Steve sucks, low elo scrub, and then he's just spamming TSM repeatedly. I don't know if you have a rebuttal to that, Steve. I'm just kind of curious.
And he just sounds salty as fuck from last year.
Okay.
Well, there's not much to say to that.
Yeah. Pick your best player. Your team sucks now. Good luck in the off season.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Well, we'll have Andy on in the future so that he can have his own rebuttal. But what a lot of people are asking.
I love you, Andy. I love you.
A lot of people in chat are asking about Pobelter. Is he currently a member of Team Liquid? Has he been released? Is he getting traded? What's the future for the 2018 mid?
Yeah. Eugene and I have had a history, right? Like he was 14 years old when he was playing with me as a support, right? Like, and we went through some ups and downs as many people know. And during the last off season, we brought him in, and his contract just ended this year, right? Like it ended today at 5 p.m. We obviously spoke with him in the middle of the split and close to the end of the season and exploring options. And, things just didn't work out. But he's a fantastic player. I think he has grown considerably. I mean, one of the first things that I realized when he started to do scrims, and we had Mickey playing on Academy, and we were like, oh, Mickey's got all of this mechanical skill, and like he's got a lot of carry potential and all this stuff. But we quickly realized that Eugene is just like an excellent communicator. He is always talking about his lane and providing information to the jungler, and he is thoughtful and creative in the mid game. Like, he just brings a lot of those qualities. Plus, he's bilingual. So, and now he's a North American mid, or he is a North American mid. So he has a lot of value there. So I'm sure he will absolutely go to another team. He will be like a star signing for another roster. So I'm not too worried. He'll figure it out.
I have a question.
Go
if
ahead.
if I can jump in, I'm just curious. So, like, obviously, there's a lot of talk in the community about C9 developing talent and TL just kind of buying talent. Like, what would you kind of say to that as far as your reputation and TL's reputation and kind of growing reputation as maybe the Yankees of the NALCS type of deal? And what is your thought on the approach there? Like, do you feel that this is just more of like a win now type thing versus long term, or kind of what's your view on it?
Yeah, I mean, my view is that, like, I called MasterCard to kind of figure out if my limit is still unlimited. But, just kidding. We always are. I think this really comes from me, like, always having a strong will to win and taking risk. I mean, from bringing in like Edward back in the day to Curse, who was like one of the first imports ever to North America. I kind of keep trying. I don't give up. And so I think there's this kind of sentiment that, like, holy shit, like Curse or Team Liquid are always doing these big moves and trying things, and we are. And so I think it's kind of developed this meme, like we pay to win. Well, I would argue that, like, we're doing things, we're pushing the envelope. We're not complacent, we're not like a Golden Guardians or, I mean, whoever else placed like 9th or 8th to 10th, like over and over. Like, no, we're gonna switch stuff up. We're gonna invest. We're gonna figure out what went wrong and fix it. And we're gonna go after the best. And so some of that time, most of the time, that comes with financial resources. But Team Liquid is doing incredible. We have some of the best partners in the industry. Our company's growing considerably. Our revenues are increasing. Our brand equity. We're winning across tons of different games. Like, we can use that and leverage that to ensure that we reinvest into the team, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So follow-up question, getting off just Pobelter and more about the rest of TL's plans for the offseason. Are there any other big moves coming, like main roster stuff that you guys are looking at, or is it now about filling in with academy talent and things like that?
Oh, Mark.
I mean, you had to know people were going to ask, is this the only change that's happening to the roster, right? Like, it's inevitable.
You knew this question was coming.
Saw a lot of TL Nadas in the chat.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything,
I feel like if you were not making any other changes to the main roster, you would say, yep, that's it. I feel like by not saying anything, it means there's roster changes coming.
Just silence. I don't know.
Okay.
Plead the fifth.
I'm pleading the fifth. There we go. No comment.
All right.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. I mean, this is the big thing. What maybe Steve, you can. I don't know how much you want to tease, but last year we saw massive, crazy roster changes across the entire league as we saw new teams come in. This feels like a pretty big kickoff, right? Like, you guys, it's like 5 p.m. and moments later we find out that Jensen is switching. Do you expect there to be a lot of movement in the offseason? Are you hearing stuff that there's going to be a lot of roster trades and maybe big names moving around?
I think the last like 6 years in off seasons, this has been the craziest.
This is the craziest over last year?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about not just Team Liquid specifically, but just worldwide off season, I think a couple reasons. Last year, the off season roster dates were actually not synced with North America. So the dates were kind of off. This year, they put everyone on the same date, and they didn't allow transfers until like today at 5 p.m. PT. So it kind of brought everybody together on the same page to say, everyone negotiate, get your deals done. Like, they're inked at the same time. And if you need to get a deal done in Korea, like, you got to be up at whatever time it was, like 4 a.m, to get that stuff done.
Have you been up at 4 a.m. in the morning recently, Steve?
Oh, he seemed to know the
You- you-
times.
you would
No one
sleep-
check his tweets.
You would sleep it okay?
Was he awake?
Very interesting.
That was a good pickup.
On that topic though, about like the Korean stuff, I was looking at the database a fair amount recently. It feels like almost every big name player in Korea's contract ended this year. Like, almost, there were not very many big name players through 2018. Do you know if like they have been heavily targeted by NA orgs at all? Like, is this something that, like, you said that everyone's on the same time for the first time? Is this like you can feel everyone talking about, and that's why you know that there's like big shit coming?
Well, I think there's a few things, right? Like, you've got EU, which are introducing a franchise system this year. So you have a lot of hype around organizations that just paid 10 million euros or dollars to get into the franchise. They're ready to invest. They want to build their brand and first impressions into the LCS. Like, they're going to go ham. And there's a few organizations that are investing. And then you have a region in Korea that have been disappointed in the results from last year. And when that happens, there's going to be movement, right? Like, players were unhappy with the results, and the region is disappointed as a whole. And so I think that has increased movement. And then just the introduction of some of the monetization that's happened in China. I don't know if you saw the news of the $144 million alleged Nike deal. Like, like, it's monetizing, right? And then you add on top of that the league as a whole, from a worldwide perspective, just had its best year in viewership that it's ever had since its inception of the league. So you add all these factors together, and yes, you've got investment and player movement, and this seems like big news because it's like the first, but there's some stuff brewing.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You mentioned EU. I know a lot of EU fans. I've seen Reddit and things like this kind of speculating about a reverse exodus. From NA going back to EU. I'd seen a lot of talk from European fans about how good would EU LCS be if they got all their players back. Do you see any talk about that? Do you think that a lot of the European players are pretty happy in North America, or is that something that you've really kind of heard anything about?
I haven't heard too much of that. I mean, I think, as I mentioned, some of the new teams and brands that will be admitted into the new franchise system are probably calling some of the players that are EU, but, have been playing in NA. But I also think that in EU, they develop a lot of great talent. I remember when Fnatic got gutted and they rebuilt and, landed on their feet. And, whatever happens with Caps, right? Like, he just went free agency today, like 4 hours ago. So there's going to be a lot of interest, and we'll see where some of those players land.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see the NA-EU war that's about to happen, the trade war between all the different teams, because I'm super fascinated to see. Do the EU guys go back? Certainly Jensen probably had the opportunity to, and he decided to stick around. But I don't know if you want to call him an EU player anymore, but it should be super interesting. Any final questions for Steve before he heads out, guys?
Not off the top of my head.
Sounds
I think we
like
got
it.
through a lot.
Well, Steve, any final thoughts before you move on?
No, thanks for having me on the show, Travis. It's always a pleasure, and love your content, love the show. I've always been supporting, and if anybody has watched this show and hasn't subbed or donated, I encourage you to do so. It goes to help support Travis. So,
Thank you,
Well,
Steve.
That's a good ass guess right
You're
there.
a lovely man. A lovely
You know
man.
what's expected now, Isaac.
Yeah.
You can leave.
I
Okay.
can't live up to that.
All right. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Steve.
guys.
Have a
Bye,
good
guys.
night.
See ya.
Yep.
The man has a MasterCard sponsorship. What do you want me to do?
All right. Well, on that note, as I'm seeing a bunch of Twitch Primes hit the channel, thank you everyone for listening to Steve, and thanks again, Steve, for calling in. We made that happen on very short notice. I got a message after the news hit that like Steve was down to come on the show, and then we made it happen. So it ended up working out. Wow, people sending bits and subs and everything. This is maybe a great time to take a break. And well, for several months, I've been teasing a big thing coming to the show. Thank you guys for the subs. And I think we have the announcement video ready. I'm going to let's see, how can we do this? I can link it. I'll link it to you in chat, Azale, because you won't be able to hear it unless you've got the stream open. But yeah, I think it's time. So the only problem, or my only concern right now, is that I forget if this is a weird technical issue. So I had an interview with Steve that I was going to play, and I think I might have messed it up and put it over the announcement video. So I think this is the announcement video. We're going to find out. Here, I'm
Why
going
don't
to
you just link it to me and I check first?
No. It's because it's in the system. Well, I'm going to mute Discord. I'll link it to you, Azale, and we'll figure it out. Okay. Okay, here we go, everybody. Announcement video, hopefully. Well, do you have anything that you would like to say to any of the people out there cheering for Team Liquid?
I mean, absolutely. I just want to thank all of our fans for supporting us over the last year, and of course our partners as well. So thanks, guys.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, for the interview, and for everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things esports right here on my YouTube channel.
That's a cut.
All right, that's a wrap on Steve.
That was good, guys.
Hello. As you can see, it takes a lot to keep Travis Gafford Industries running. Just the sheer amount of finances and talent you need to maintain a studio like this, it's incredible. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Our crew is specially vetted. These aren't amateurs here. We hire only the best. And that's because we really care about the details in every project. Magenta. We care about the details in every project that we take on. But don't take my word for it.
I work closely with Broden and the VFX team to make sure everything is historically accurate and realistic.
You would feel wrong not to give it 100%. I like to set a high bar for quality, and it's not easy to do that on a shoestring budget.
We pay attention to every single little detail because we know our audience also pays attention.
Now, as you might imagine, it takes an obscene amount of capital to keep things running here, even if we're trying to keep it grassroots. Not now, Mark. And that is why I am so excited to announce a new partnership. Travis Gafford Industries will be fully funded in 2019 by Alienware. It's going to be a great year.